Hey friends, I'm pleased to show you the new features inside of Ableton Live's free 12.3 update. Let's take a look. Okay, so I've just got some royalty-free music here, and it sounds like this. So the first exciting new feature is now we have stem separation included inside of Ableton Live. So you can right-click on a clip and go down to Separate Stems to New Audio Tracks. Now this is really cool because you can turn on or off these 4 different elements of a track, and then you can click Separate. And so when I've done this, a couple things has happened. Ableton has disabled the original track, so now we can listen to these stems all separated but together. Let's listen to just the drums. Here's the bass. And then here's what Ableton refers to as other, and this is basically all the melodic instruments. And then, of course, if we unfold vocals, you can see that because there was no vocals in this specific sample, there's no vocals that are in this track. Okay, so I'm going to show you this stuff in the context of building up a track. So let's listen to the drums first of all and see what we like from them. Cool, I think I like the snare drum. So I'm going to take this snare drum, copy it, and I'm going to make a new audio track and kind of place it down here in like a composition area. Let's just put it right there. And I think I also like that's kind of a cool open hi-hat kind of sound. I'll go ahead and make another audio track and place that down here as well. Okay, so that's maybe what I like out of the drums. Let's go ahead and listen to the other or the melodic instruments. And so I think there's some fun elements right here. I think what I'd like to do with this is maybe slice it. So I'm going to create a new MIDI track, and I will drag this section right here into that MIDI track, thus creating a simpler. And let's go to slice mode, and I'm going to slice by beat. Go ahead and reset my volume to 0, and let's see what we got here. Okay, so now that I've extracted some of these things, I'm going to go ahead and close down my lo-fi stems right now and maybe work on this area. So I was thinking of maybe doing a double time thing. Okay, so since I'm working with samples, I want to edit them in some way to make them mine. So I'll go ahead and I'll pitch them up a little bit. I think these snares could sound good a little bit higher pitched. Cool, I like that. Maybe something like this. Or maybe I'll pitch down the open hat and kind of close it off right here. Okay, so maybe I'll duplicate this and I'll loop this section. And I'll start to play around with my slices until I have a musical idea. So I'm going to go ahead and pitch this up 2 steps and then click warp to make sure that these samples last as long as I'd like them to. And maybe I'll switch over to texture mode. Okay, so I've got somewhat of an idea. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. And now let's go ahead and record our slices. Okay, so I've got a cool little idea going on here. Now let's move on to another really exciting new feature. And if you scroll down into your places, you'll see that this new icon appears, Splice. Check this out. If I click on this, bam. We now have Splice integrated into Ableton Live's browser. This is insane. I think that this is one of the most exciting new features in Ableton because, I mean, it has gotten easier over time to get samples from Splice into Ableton, but I always find myself just kind of like sculpting a sound within my browser because it's just kind of faster. And now this is just so fast. Okay, so check it out. I need a kick drum, right? So let's search kick. And when I search the kick, you'll see that right under the search results, just like in Splice, you can now choose maybe some genres, right? So we could go with drum and bass, for example, okay? So now I can go down and listen, using the same familiar workflow that I use normally in Ableton, so I can preview it over here inside of Splice without downloading it or bringing it into Ableton. A couple things to understand is that the audio is going to play encoded, right? It's going to play not at its highest quality, okay? So let's say that this is the kick drum that I want. I can simply click on this and drag it into Ableton, and now it's going to play at its normal quality. Right, so we can hear that. That sounds a little bit better, right? All right, cool. So I'll go in here and I'm going to pitch it down a little bit, and I'm going to maybe change the envelope a little bit. Okay, cool. So that's my new sound. I'll drag it above my snare. Okay, so here's my drum idea. All right, so let's go back over to Splice here, and let's maybe choose in genres. You can just go down to genres. Since we're kind of making a drum and bass kind of thing, I can go down to drum and bass here. But now that I'm in drum and bass here, let's choose maybe hats or something. And I'm going to choose loops. Okay, so now I've got it down to hats, and it's a loop. And so, of course, I can play my idea and then preview off of the internet. I mean, this is so awesome. I can just play my composition and then try different loops over it, right? Cool. Okay, so amazing, right? So I'm just going to drag this into here, pull this down a bit, and maybe try a different one. Okay, cool. So maybe this one intermittently. Awesome. So super, super simple. Okay, so another way that you can search Splice, of course, is by browsing. So we could go to instruments and let's maybe try strings. We'll click view all, and there are a lot of strings. All right, so let's choose, I know that this is in C minor, right? You know, again, the superpower here is to be able to play from anywhere within your arrangement and be able to preview these loops, right? Cool. Okay, so let's take this loop right here and I'm going to drag it in to my composition. I think it's really important to understand something. As Splice and other royalty-free sample libraries get more and more integrated into these systems, there's only so much they can do about content flagging. You know, somebody could release this loop as it is, and all of a sudden you'll find yourself in a crappy situation where you use the sample from here and then it gets flagged. So I think it's really important, and also as a creative act, and to generate creative energy, to consistently change and morph these samples into things that are actually yours. And so there's so many ways that you can do that. Again, we can drop this into a MIDI track, and then we can create a simpler, right? So I can just delete this track. I could turn on the slice mode again, and this time, let's do it by eighth notes, okay? So, right, and now maybe let's try to grab an arpeggiator. Let's choose maybe thumb up, and now I'll play this along with my arrangement. Go ahead and record that. So the next thing I want to show you is that, of course, Ableton has allowed us to bounce a track in place or bounce to a new track, right? But check this out. This is so cool. So I can select this whole clip and I can copy it, right? And then if I make a new audio track, check this out. I can Command Option V, and check it out. I have now pasted bounced audio. This is so fast, y'all. Like, it's just amazing, right? So I'll go ahead and delete this track. And now, of course, I can do all kinds of fun stuff with this track right here. So maybe I want to just reverse this part of it, this section right here. And now let's listen. Cool, so that's a start. So let's go ahead and further manipulate this audio by grabbing the newly updated Auto Pan. So Auto Pan is now an Auto Pan-Tremolo, and there are so many awesome new features that you can use here. So first of all, let's go ahead and switch this maybe to a down ramp, and now we get... Let's go ahead and sync it to the clock. So we're going to go to Synced, and we're going to choose an 1/8 division. Let's turn the amount up. So that sounds cool, but we can also set an onset. And what this does is basically it's listening for input signal, and then once it detects an input signal, it's going to then ramp up into its full amount. So let's take a listen to what that does. Cool, so you can see now there's some interesting dynamic changes happening. Cool, so let's go ahead and listen to this in context. Awesome, so that sounds cool. Let's go ahead and maybe edit my slices up here using another instance of this, and I want to show you something else. Now, you could always make a tremolo out of AutoPan by simply taking the left and the right LFOs and making them in phase. But something that you couldn't do before is this mode here called harmonic tremolo mode. And so what this does is instead of taking the whole signal and ducking it in and out like a normal tremolo would, it will actually create a cutoff point and treat the lows and the highs separately. And the result of this is in my opinion, pretty musical. Now I'm going to take the shape and I'm going to kind of make it a little bit more of a sine wave. And let's go ahead and work on our rate. Right? Kind of has that chewy sound. So that's with it. Without it, we can hear that signal just going in and out. But with this harmonic mode, so that sounds pretty cool. I'm actually going to go ahead and sync this. And let's sync it and make it go pretty fast, like maybe like a 16th. And let's see if we can ramp into it. They also added this right here, which is the vintage mode. And this kind of creates some harmonic distortion on top of the signal akin to what the old tremolo pedals would do. So this kind of sounds fun. Let's go ahead and listen to this with everything else. Okay, cool. So let's do something else. I'm going to make a new MIDI track. I'm going to grab a tension. Now I want a tension-like sound. Like I want like a guitar strum, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and record something. So I've recorded a bunch of guitar-like strums, right? But this isn't necessarily the sound that I want. Like, I'm not that excited about this specific tension sound. So let's go back to Splice and explore something really interesting. So what you can do with Splice is you can actually select areas of time, and you can choose Search with Sound. Click to capture selection or drag in a sound. So let's go ahead and click this. And what it's going to do is it's going to listen to what I just did, and it's going to search its entire library and try to find a sound that's similar to that. So let's go ahead and listen to what it came up with. So not only is it finding decent sounds that are similar to my strum sound, but as you can see, it's also listening to the key. And it's able to determine sounds that'll actually fit within my song idea. So I'll drag this into Ableton, and now I can delete my tension track. And let's take a listen. So of course that's a lot, right? That's a bit much. So I'm going to grab an EQ, and I'm going to go ahead and filter out a lot of the low end. So obviously those kind of strum sounds are sort of what I'm going after, right? Now, I kind of like that air in there, or maybe I don't. Maybe I just want to focus on the mid-range. But I'm not sure. So something that I can do that's really awesome now is I can right-click on EQ, and I can choose to listen to two different versions of this audio. So what I can do is I can hit the letter P, and check this out. Now it says EQ8B. So now I can try maybe a slightly different EQ setting. So potentially one with the air and one without. And so long as I have the title bar selected, I can click back and forth between these two different versions and listen to my composition. So I think I've decided that I like this version better, the A version, without some of the breathy top end, right? So maybe in alignment with my original idea, I will take this guy right here and bring it to the beginning to kind of have like a strum at the beginning, and I'll pull it out. And maybe I'll kind of fade in and out of these two. Let's go ahead and duplicate that a bunch of times. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make a group of my drums real quick. Let's go ahead and group all these together. And maybe I'll grab a roar real quick, and I'll switch it over to the single mode, and let's add maybe some distorted, tuned feedback, maybe on C or something. All right, so maybe that's the sound I'm going for. And so now if I copy this area right here, I can right-click and choose Bounce Group to a new track. Super cool, right? Also, Command B. Bam. So now I have this crazy delay, right, that I can use as an element. Now, I don't necessarily want to delete my original drums at all, but I wanted to have that as an option, something to blend in or something to add as an element. So I'll go ahead and re-enable everything, and I'll go back to my drums and take off this roar. Cool, so if I play this over my normal drums, of course, it's going to have a lot of drums already in it, so I need to filter this down in some way. So maybe we'll use an auto filter. I'll switch it over to a bandpass. Let's maybe do something like with some envelope on it. And then let's go ahead and use that tremolo yet again, and this time I'll switch it over to tremolo. Let's go ahead and sync the rate. Maybe bring it to, and we'll leave it on a full bar, and I'm going to take the shape and make it this kind of rampy shape. We can see it peaking right there too, and so I can try to turn on my vintage tremolo mode, which will add a little bit of distortion and clip that signal a bit. Cool, so of course to round it all out, I'm going to need a bass. All right, so here's an 808 bass. So here's a bass. Let's take a listen. So, of course, I'm going to need that to be... Go ahead and click warp, put it on complex, and stretch it out a bit. Now, again, this is a sound that I could sample inside of Splice to find a new bass sound. So here I am in Splice. I can go back to home. I can click search with sound. And let's find something a little bit better. Okay, let's see how this does. Cool, so that's a low bass. Let's go ahead and duplicate it, and maybe I'll change the pitch of it here. Now, when it comes to pitching these samples around to make them your own, something that you should see is that Ableton and Splice have spoken with each other, and it's automatically pitched this sample down a little bit, right, by 2 semitones. And so I just wanted to point that out, that there is already a communication happening because the original key of this specific sample was D instead of C, right? Just something to point out there. So if I want this to go an octave up, for example, this would now be a positive 10. Okay, let me go ahead and duplicate this real quick. And then maybe it would sound better with a different algorithm, maybe complex. And of course, that's not going to fly just by itself, so let's go ahead and maybe we'll grab an auto filter, put it on comb. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and explore the changes to expressive chords. So you might notice this new little green area right here. Well, essentially what this does is this allows you to train expressive chords with whatever chords you want. And so you can see that this mode has a keyboard and the chord bank. So it's basically a combination of this mode and this mode here. But essentially what you can do is you can click on, let's go ahead and choose. So within our chord bank, this is the chord that we want to change. If I click learn, I can choose. So what's awesome about this is I can see the notes as I'm putting them in, right? And it is an F minor 7. And so now whenever I play this chord bank, I'm going to get that new chord that I put in there. And so another thing I can do is I can transpose a chord. So I like that second chord, maybe this third chord. I've transposed it up to a C sharp. So now I could play. Maybe that's my new part. And what's nice about that is maybe you want to transpose this one but leave the other one untouched. Right? So yeah, a super useful feature within Expressive Chords. Okay, so my thoughts on the 12.3 update is that it's obvious that Ableton is listening to the fan base. Folks demanded stem separation, and so they put it in the software. The Splice integration is insane. I mean, all the new features, the bounce features, that was another super demanded thing from people. People wanted to be able to bounce audio quickly with one button or a keystroke or something like that. Of course, the bounce features are really awesome. The ability to now bounce groups, it's just really, really well executed. It's obvious that Ableton is listening to everybody because that was yet another requested feature inside of the software. Word. So obviously Ableton is my thing. If it's your thing too, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and ring the bell so that you know when I upload new videos. Much love, everybody. I'll see you next time. Thank you.